Minsik searches in his pocket and looks at the doll he made of Sian. At that moment, Minik tells him to move because she's trying to walk and he's taking up all the space. He lets them pass and apologizes, and she arrogantly comments that he's so big he takes up too much space. She wonders why Sian brought such a bulk. However, Sian quickly notices this and cuts the talk short. She runs toward Minsik and questions why he is standing so far away. He tells her it's nothing, and she ponders if he's telling the truth. She suggests that he goes and eats some delicious food, as she's sure he'll love the protein he'll get from it. As they're having their discussion, Minik glances at them. Her boyfriend questions who the blue-haired girl is. Minik explains that her father introduced her a while ago. She's always smiling, but she's a witch who loves to praise everyone all the time. Minik also heard that Sian has been living without her parents since she was young, but whatever the case, she doesn't like her. Meanwhile, Sian enjoys a cookie that she finds tasty and tells Minsik to try it because it tastes really good. When he tells her no, she's surprised and asks why. He then explains that he doesn't have an appetite, but this makes no sense to her. She thinks it's impossible that someone his size and mass has no appetite. She realizes that what the two idiots said earlier must have affected him. Sian breaks down Minsik's walls, and he reveals the truth. He's scared she thinks he will hurt her. She is stunned and calls him an idiot. She asks what he means by thinking he'd hurt her. First and foremost, if that was the case, would she have brought him here? Confused, he tells her he thought she might. She explains of course she would, and asks if he'll eat the cookie or reject her again. He decides to eat it, but first he has to go to the bathroom. As he's walking, he contemplates what she said, and a small smile appears on his face. However, he bumps into Minik and quickly apologizes. As he continues walking, she stares at him and calls out, referring to him as a pig. With a smirk on her face, she tells him to come here. He approaches her and questions who she's calling that. She tells him she was referring to him, saying he needs to apologize properly. How could he just keep going as if nothing happened? It's too rude. He quickly apologizes again, but she throws her wine on him, commenting that she can do the same. Her boyfriend, with a cat-like grin, laughs and questions if that wasn't too much, but Minik doesn't care. She comments that it seems Minsik's gotten all dirty from eating like a child. She questions if he heard who she is and whether he really thinks what happened was fair. Minsik, still calm, tells her he's sorry. She exclaims that she really thought he was stupid, but he seems smarter than he looks. At that moment, Sian rushes towards them and questions what happened. She asks why Minsik is wet. Minik mockingly comments that she accidentally bumped into Sian's precious friend and spilled her wine on him. Sian questions if that's the truth. Minsik tells her yes while lowering his head, explaining that he made a mistake, already apologized, and they should just go. Sian stares at him for a moment, looking deep into his soul, and then tells him he shouldn't lie to her. Sian approaches Minik and comments that she knows Minik loves to show off, but she must do it in moderation. Minik questions who said Sian could talk to her like that. Isn't it rude? Didn't she learn to speak politely? She offers to teach Sian honorifics. Sian asks if Minik wants her to treat her like a sister now, but Minik responds that she brought such a plain, basic guy to a place like this and is speaking informally to her, even though Minik is older. Minik adds that Sian wouldn't know better because it's just a thing people without parents do. This hurts Sian deeply, enraging her, but Minik smiles and questions if she went too far. Suddenly, Minsik makes Minik lower her head and tells her to shut up. His grip is so strong that she becomes nervous. Minsik is aware that Sian has been through a lot, but she was kind to him. She made him smile, was a true friend, and he enjoyed seeing her happy. He also saw her at her most vulnerable and was there for her, so he won't allow anyone to talk to her like that. He explains that Minik shouldn't speak to Sian that way. Calling her a witch, Minsik recounts that in the past, there was a girl from his class who was very pretty, and he was in love with her, but he didn't fit with her, he was too big and ugly. However, she was friendly with everyone, so he knew her smile wasn't meant for him. Even then, he thought it was worth trying. So, he sewed a doll that looked just like her, and even if it was small and a little unpleasant, he thought she would happily accept it. He waited for her after class and gave her the doll as a gift. Upon seeing the doll, she stared for a few moments but then smiled happily. She thanked him and told him it was nice, and he was very happy. She didn't hate it and happily accepted it. At least his feelings reached her a little. But some days later, he found it discarded on the school grounds. He hid behind the wall and overheard her conversation. She told Sung that he made her a doll and gave it to her. The friend was curious and wanted to see it, but she apologized and commented that she threw it away because it was repulsive. It wasn't an unexpected result, and he supposed it could be offensive. Sometimes unwanted favors and gifts can hurt someone. It just startled him a bit, making him wonder who she was calling repulsive, him or the doll. But it was the same with Sian, a situation where people looked down on him and called him ugly, which made him feel insecure. So, maybe he told her to leave, but Sian was kind and didn't let him go. He always pondered why she didn't let him leave. Why doesn't she laugh at him like all the others? Why does she get close to him? The first gift he received looked like him, and he may not have shown it, but he was really happy. That's why he got angry. After hearing Mayek's words that touched the deepest parts of Sian's wounds, he knew he couldn't stand by. Mayek questions what Minsik's doing and why he won't let her go. He declares that she must beg for forgiveness from the person she just hurt. Mayek can't believe he would tell her that and thinks he's out of his mind. Sian is flabbergasted. Minsik declares that if Mayek doesn't ask for forgiveness from Sian, this will be the start of her education. Mayek tells him she was joking but looks to her boyfriend for help and questions why he's just standing there. Her boyfriend nonchalantly declares that it seems he can't avoid it. He calls Minsik a pig and asks if he's ever heard of kickboxing. He comments that with Minsik's balloon-like muscles, there's no way he could have done practical martial arts like this. He tells Minsik he'll make him regret touching his beautiful girlfriend. The guy thinks his kickboxing skills are going to hurt Minsik, but his low kick does no damage. It takes him a moment to realize that it had no effect. Puzzled, he tries a circular kick, then a high kick. It just becomes more and more embarrassing. So Minsik hits him on the head, and he immediately falls to the ground unconscious. This makes Mayek furious, and she questions if Minsik is crazy. Does he really think everything is going to be okay after this? She questions if he knows who her father is. Does he really want to be interrogated? Minsik, however, doesn't care who her father is. She hurt Sian, and that's why she's going to receive her education. If she doesn't ask for forgiveness now, she'll be punished. Hearing this, Sian smiles. Since Mayek says nothing, Minsik lifts her in the air. This is the start of her education. At that moment, the star of the party rushes over to see what the issue is, but Sian intervenes and states that he shouldn't worry. Mayek said she was bored, so they're playing with her for a while. Sian questions if Mayek doesn't seem happy, but she looks like she wants to cry. He declares that it's great she's enjoying the party. Mayek declares that she's dizzy and wants to be put down, so Minsik throws her next to her boyfriend. Her face becomes pale and she vomits. Sian questions if the education is finished, but Mayek defiantly declares that she's not apologizing. She can't believe she was embarrassed like this and asks if Minsik really thinks he's safe. She won't forgive him and is going to tell everyone. Minsik explains that Mayek still hasn't regained her senses. Sian comments that it's over and she'll take over now. She tells Mayek to listen. She seems mistaken. She explains that generally Mayek is always rude and hits people, and has also done a lot of bad things behind her father's back. If she tells her dad, he'll love it, right? She's bluffing, though the truth is, she doesn't know exactly what she's done. Mayek contemplates this for a moment but admits defeat. She quickly apologizes to Sian, and Sian, wondering if that was really enough, decides to move on. Later, they declare that today was a tiring day, and Sian tells Minsik he did a good job. She thanks him for everything that happened today. Even though they may have said awful things about her, he interfered, and she felt calm. To make it even better, Mayek made a rainbow and got dizzy, which was really fun for her. At this moment, Minsik gathers the courage to declare that he has something for her. Suddenly, he becomes silent and starts staring at her. But she simply asks why he's so quiet all of a sudden. He becomes really nervous. Giving her a gift is so complicated. He must have underestimated himself. It looks like he hasn't gotten over the trauma from the past. She inquires why he put his hand in his pocket, almost as if he's touching something. He exclaims that it's a misunderstanding, but she tells him not to lie to her. Did he really think she wouldn't notice? He's been fiddling with his pockets for quite some time now, so he must have something in there. She begins feeling his pocket on his huge muscles. He tells her to stop, but she tells him to shut up as she feels something inside his pocket. Suddenly, she pulls out something and sees a doll. She is excited and questions where he got it. Finally, facing his trauma, Minik declares that he made it himself. She can't believe that he's so skilled with his hands. He explains that he was thinking about her. It wasn't just because of the gift she gave him the other day. The more he saw it, the more he thought about her, so he wanted to give her something in return. It may be a little disgusting, but he made it while thinking of her. She blushes and questions how long he's been thinking of her. He reveals that he thinks of her every day. She looks away and asks if he's serious, but he is. He comments that sometimes she seems a little crazy, but no matter how she dresses or how she styles her hair, she always looks good. It doesn't matter what she does, it always ends up being cute and pretty. He's had these thoughts for a long time now. She tells him to stop, embarrassed, her face growing redder. She questions why he has to praise everything she does. She announces that she's going to sleep now, and he tells her good night. As she walks away, she vows to treasure the doll forever. This puts him at ease, and he smiles and thanks her. Later, inside her room, she stares at the doll in the middle of the night. She reflects on the fact that he made it while thinking of her and questions why he said something so weird. She exits her bedroom and sees him sleeping on the couch. She wonders why he's sitting there all alone. He's a strange guy. He comforted her, was there when she needed him, and even told her she was cute and pretty. He's been thinking of her every day. What kind of ogre is so nice to an elf, she ponders. But since he gave her such a nice gift, she has to repay him somehow. She decides to give him something in return. It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, and she knows it's an honor. She brushes back her hair and kisses him on the cheek. Do you remember the story of the elf that was hypnotized by an ogre and forced to become his wife? It seemed like a life she didn't want, but there was an unexpected plot twist. The hypnotic effect on the elf was dismissed halfway through the story. She awakened by accident and thought that even the trustworthy appearance of the ogre made her feel safe. Eventually, they got married, and their children lived happily ever after. But that's a story for another time. Sean questions what Driver Choi thought of it. Did he like the ending? He tells her he didn't like it at all. He knows it's just a setup to reinforce an NSFW scene that comes right after. But in this story, the result is the opposite. However, Sean likes it. The next day, her friends are surprised that Minik went with her to the party. They didn't think it was going to happen and found it incredible. They ask if anything happened while she was with him. She initially thought she shouldn't say anything, but then remembers that she kissed him. She looks away and admits that she kissed him. Her friends can't believe she was so bold. They ask if they're officially a couple now, but she declares they're just friends, even after the kiss. So maybe she has left him in the friend zone. Unfortunately, she's not in a relationship with the ogre for now because a man should confess first. Later, on a rainy day, a stray dog was hungry. He couldn't find any food, and he was also too tired to escape the rain. That's when a strange human appeared in front of him, asking if he was cold. Jae-kyung couldn't tell if he was a dog or a wolf. The human was unknown, so the dog gathered the strength he didn't have to warn him away. However, the human assured him he didn't have to be on guard and gave him an umbrella. He even offered him some food before running away in the rain, all alone. The dog owed this human a favor. He was a kind and gentlemanly person, someone the dog would never forget. As a male who never forgets kindness, he hoped that one day he could repay this human. The moment finally arrived when he found the place the benefactor frequently visited, a place called school. He planned to repay the favor by helping the benefactor meet a female human. After all, even though the benefactor was human, he was still a male who would go crazy over women. This was a great opportunity because there were a female nearby. So, the dog jumped up and hit the female in the back, causing her to fall on Jae-kyung. Jae-kyung questions who she was, and they clarify that he didn't have any free hug posters on him. She declares that someone pushed her from behind. However, the dog believes that it was a great success, and he should go ahead and try to mate with the female. However, the female merely left, and it was so odd. The dog was confused as to why the benefactor didn't try to mate with the female. He pondered whether there were males that refused to reproduce. However, he quickly came to the conclusion that this male liked different females, and that seemed to be the answer. So, he decided to prepare another female for the benefactor. The dog found his second target, a crazy woman with light eyes and pigtails. It was very probable that the benefactor would like someone with an appearance like hers. So, from behind, he pounced, expecting the benefactor to hug her from behind. However, the female was taken aback. Sean declared that he was actually hugging her from behind when he should have done it to Jae-kyung instead. She accused him of wanting to take advantage of her and said he was going to get rid of her because he was greedy. Kyung didn't understand what she was talking about. She declared that he was a playboy who only spent his time looking for women to play with and then discard. Even the dog found this strange, as the benefactor had the face of a male who didn't want to mate with anyone at all. Could it be that he had the wrong objective again? Since then, the dog attempted the same with many female humans, but the results stayed the same. He thought his benefactor had very demanding taste, and this was a very worrying case indeed. Suddenly, he found 2 more female humans. He didn't have much stamina left, so he had to risk it here. One moment, that's all the benefactor needed to wait. So, which one of these beauties would he choose? The dog was determined to ensure the benefactor met with one of these 2 females. Meanwhile, rumors were spreading about Kyung, that he was getting with all the girls in their class. Every girl ended up hugging him. Some pondered if it was just him with a free hug sign on his back or something like that. However, one girl said she got pushed onto him from behind. But whatever the case, they knew they should be careful if they didn't want to be hugged by Kyung. However, if it was Kyung, they didn't mind. Later, at the dumpster, Sung with her dark eyes like the solar system questioned how everything was going with Kyung. How far had she gotten? However, Jae-kyung didn't understand what she meant. She declared that there was nothing between her and that idiot, and that they weren't in a relationship yet. Sung questioned if she was ahead of her, which agitated Jae-kyung. Sung declared that she didn't think she could ever forget the hugs she had shared with him. Jae-kyung wondered if she had really hugged him. Sung began laughing and told her to put in more effort. Jae-kyung wanted to know what happened, but Sung didn't want to say anything more. Jae-kyung wondered why she had hugged him. Suddenly, she noticed a dog still hiding behind a wall and quickly ran toward it, thinking it was cute. By the time she reached the other side, she bumped into Kyung, who questioned if she wanted to go to the cafeteria with him. She was surprised to see him and questioned what had happened to the dog. But Kyung kept to his original question, whether she wanted to go to the cafeteria or not. She told him she didn't have an appetite, but if he really wanted to go, she would go with him. However, he commented that he didn't really want to go either but needed to gain some weight. Suddenly, she questioned if he had seen the dog. At that moment, the dog appeared from behind and pounced, throwing her onto Kyung, causing them to hug. Kyung found it odd that he'd been getting hugged a lot that day. Someone had pushed her from behind. Maybe it was Sung. But that aside, Jae-kyung noticed that Kyung smelled really good, like he wore cologne. It was really comforting. She thought she'd get a good night's sleep if she could go to bed smelling this. Suddenly, she regained her senses and quickly pushed herself away from him, telling him to release her. But Kyung declared that she was the one hugging him. Meanwhile, the dog watched their conversation from the gate. He decided that this was just another failure. It looked like the benefactor didn't like that female either, but there was something different this time. The dog came to the conclusion that this female actually liked the benefactor. Later, Jae-kyung happily declared that they should go home together. This caught the attention of the dog, who realized that this girl was the last female. This was the moment. Now that a female was standing behind the benefactor, he would push her diagonally. He rushed at her, but she immediately dodged like a boss and caught the dog midair. The dog made crying noises and she commented that she had finally found the culprit. She declared that the dog was a bad dog in a cold tone. She explained to Jae-kyung that a series of unfortunate events had been happening to him, and this little doggy was behind all of these hugging incidents. However, Jae-kyung insisted the dog was a wolf, but Jae-kyung clarified that a wolf couldn't be in the middle of the city. Jae-kyung thought the dog looked familiar. The dog was terrified of this female. He couldn't believe she had avoided his attack so easily. Do all humans have reflexes like this? Suddenly, Jae-kyung remembered the dog. He was the one who had given the dog an umbrella and some hot dogs when it was raining the other day. He shouted that this wasn't how favors were repaid. He'd done a bad job. Jae-kyung contemplated what the dog had been doing. Was the objective hugging girls? The dog quickly realized that this female had many possibilities of defeating him. Would she turn him into soup? Take him to a circus? Whatever the case, someone needed to save this dog. He needed saving, so he howled for help. Seeing this, Jae-kyung was 100% sure that the dog was a wolf. After understanding the situation, Jae-kyung suggested they go home. Jae-kyung questioned if they weren't going to scold him, but she told him that was enough. The dog was confused about what was happening. It was strange. He thought they were going to punish him, but everything went well. He would get away from that female as soon as he could. But he couldn't give up on Jae-kyung that easily. It wasn't as if nothing had happened. If it wasn't for the umbrella and the hot dogs from his benefactor, he would have died from the cold and hunger. He still owed his benefactor. He would give it one more try, so he pushed Jae-kyung onto Jae-kyung again, and this time she didn't dodge. She hugged him and was enjoying every moment of it. The dog was 100% sure this was the face of a male that wanted to mate. The mission was a complete success. He had returned the favor, so he'll leave the rest to his benefactor. But it was weird, what kind of reflexes did this female have? She could have avoided that easily. He wondered if it was his doing or if she wanted him to push her. She told Jae-kyung not to get it wrong. It was the dog's fault. But whatever the case, that's the end of his story. Now he was hungry and needed to get some food. And this is the end of the doggy lovemaker or doggy cupid. Late on a chilly evening, Jae-kyung and Minik walked together. Jae-kyung had come to the realization that it's true. People do need to exercise. However, Minik decided to confess something to him. He never expected Jae-kyung to turn out this way. Back in school, he hated doing exercise. He was the kind of guy whose manly side couldn't be seen. Back then, Jae-kyung didn't even know why anyone would put themselves through the pain of exercise. Other than watch anime, he had no real interest. But even if it's because of a girl, Minik was happy to see him man up. Looking back, Minik was the only one who understood everything. Then, Jae-kyung wanted to triple the amount of reps they would do from now on because of Jae-kyung. After all that talk about not being interested in exercise, now he wants to bulk up because he wants to look good. Not just because of that, but because he doesn't want to look weak in front of Jae-kyung. The only reason that comes to mind right now is that he wants to protect Jae-kyung when she's in danger. That's what Jae-kyung told him. However, Jae-kyung started to sound a bit childish, but Minik didn't think so. As Minik says, women feel attracted to gentlemanly men. But what's most important is to set a goal and put in the effort to achieve it. Still, Jae-kyung believed he was far from his objective. He didn't know if his body had changed that much. Minik knew he was different from his past self. There's something a man must always know. Perseverance does not betray. The next day in class, Jae-kyung's teacher was posing like a model, but Jae-kyung nervously approached Jae-kyung. She questioned what had happened, smiling and laughing a bit. Jae-kyung was curious about what she was doing after class, but she told him nothing much. Her plans were free. He asked if she wanted to go watch a movie and get some food together. Later, in the hallway, he reflected on the fact that he did it. It had been a while since he went on a date with Jae-kyung. As expected, he was excited. He then bumped into Sean, who commented that he really looked happy. Had something good happened to him, or what? He revealed that he was going to watch a movie with Jae-kyung after school. Suddenly, Sean called him a bad boy. Last time he hugged her from behind, she thought he liked her. How dare he go looking for another woman? However, Jae-kyung tried to clarify that it wasn't his fault, and it was because of the wolf. Seon questioned if he wanted to die and threatened to get rid of him. As she said this, she got closer to his face, and Jae-kyung told her to back off. She then returned to normal and revealed that she was just joking. She felt nothing for him. But it must be cool going on a date. Will they go shopping and get some new clothes? Jae-kyung nonchalantly declared that he wasn't thinking of that and planned to wear what he had at home. This news was quite disturbing to Seon, who dramatically told him no. She grabbed him by the shirt and calmly told him that he was going with her when classes were over, unless he wanted her to beat him up. At a salon, the owner, known as Aaron, welcomed him. Seon ordered him to turn Sung into a man. Jae-kyung took a seat and thanked Aaron. Even though he hadn't started yet, Aaron asked how he would like it, but Seon told him to make Jae-kyung look the best he could. A little while later, it was all done, and Seon was impressed. She blushed, commenting that it was a nice haircut. Next up was clothing shopping. Unfortunately, Jae-kyung didn't have any money, but Seon offered to buy him something since she had lots of money. As they left, Aaron commented that they should get out. When the day ended, the night illuminated the sky. Seon had finished her duty and was impressed by her excellent work. She commented that people should dress up nicely for special moments. Jae-kyung questioned if the outfit suited him, as it felt a little weird. She told him not to worry about it, he would get used to it soon. She was sure Jae-kyung would love it, or at least love a guy who came dressed up like that for a date. She took the bag that held his school uniform, as it wouldn't be good to have it on the date. She said she would keep it for him until tomorrow. Jae-kyung thanked her, revealing that he didn't really have to do any of this, as he didn't want to owe her anything, but he would pay her back for sure. Seon asked what he was talking about and told him to leave it be. It was really fun for her. As she left, Jae-kyung commented that she was out of this world. However, it was Jae-kyung's first time dressing up like this, and he really hoped Jae-kyung liked it. Meanwhile, in Jae-kyung's room, she sat on her couch, trembling at the thought of seeing Jae-kyung soon. She was sure she would look cute, but it was a little chilly. For the first time, her body felt strange. She really had to go see him. She walked the street alone as no one else was around. She walked slowly, having a hard time breathing. Suddenly, she fell to the ground, exhausted. She really didn't feel good. Her vision became blurry as she tried to get up. She needed to hurry. Suddenly, two boys approached her and inquired why she was sleeping there. They tried talking to her, telling her to wake up, but one of them started laughing, commenting that it was incredible. They probably thought she was drunk. They wondered what she looked like. As one of them lifted her head, they remarked that she was really pretty. They wondered what she was doing in the middle of the street. They speculated that she was drunk since her face was red. Then they realized she didn't seem well and questioned whether they should help her. However, one of the boys told his friend to wait for a moment as he had to do something first. Meanwhile, Jae-kyung was waiting alone, wondering why Jae-kyung hadn't arrived. Maybe something bad had happened to her? He thought about contacting her but remembered reading on the internet that girls take a while to get ready. He decided to wait a bit more. Suddenly, someone called his name. Song commented that it was a coincidence. She questioned what he was doing there alone, but he explained that he was waiting for Jae-kyung. Song told him that she was doing the same. She asked if he had stolen Jae-kyung from her, jokingly threatening him. Jae-kyung didn't understand what she was talking about. Song explained that earlier, about 2 hours ago, she was balancing elegantly in the park, having fun. She noticed two women walking together and decided she wanted new clothes. So, she called her best friend, Jae-kyung, and asked if she wanted to go shopping. Jae-kyung revealed that she was going on a date and was leaving now. As a result, Song was rejected. Now, Song questioned if it was Jae-kyung with whom Jae-kyung had gone on a date. She couldn't forgive him for taking away her happy time. Jae-kyung commented that if she had called Jae-kyung 2 hours ago, she should have been here by now. So, if Song wanted, they could go shopping together. But then Jae-kyung realized something. If it had been 2 hours since she called Jae-kyung, she should have arrived by now. That made Song realize that Jae-kyung's voice had sounded strange, like she was gasping for air or sick. This stressed Jae-kyung. Jae-kyung had left her house at least 2 hours ago, and from what Song was telling him, her voice didn't sound too good. What could have happened to her? He decided to check by calling her first. He might have been worrying over nothing, but she wasn't answering the phone. It went straight to voicemail. Song suggested that something could have happened to her. Jae-kyung dismissed the idea but resolved to go to her house. He told Song to keep calling her until she picked up. Song told him to wait for her and ran after him but immediately bumped into a tree. Meanwhile, the blonde-haired guy took out his phone and snapped a picture of him and Jae-kyung. The brown-haired guy commented that they looked horrible. They couldn't believe she was still asleep. How much did she drink? The blonde-haired guy wondered. But then he noticed something else. Her body was really attractive. He commented that her boyfriend must be really lucky. He couldn't stand it anymore. He questioned if there were any cameras around, and his friend asked what he was planning to do. The blonde-haired guy got up, commenting that he was frustrated. He hadn't gotten a single number, so why did girls always act like they were too good for him? He believed this was a one-in-a-million opportunity. His friend questioned if he was really going to do something. The blonde-haired guy explained that he just wanted to take some pictures. Nothing too serious, just for his collection. He reassured his friend that there was no need to worry. But as he reached down, he suddenly heard a noise and turned. Jae-kyung had arrived and immediately shoved the friend aside. He rushed at the blonde-haired guy with full force. He grabs the man's face in his hand and angrily questions, "What the hell do you think you're doing?" The dangerous look in his eyes makes it clear that no one would want to be in that guy's position. A few days ago, Seon was in a car with Minik, discussing how close he had become with Jae-kyung. They had even started training together. Minik revealed that they had been close since middle school. Back then, Jae-kyung was being bullied by two guys at the back of the school, and that kind of behavior really bothered Minik, so he intervened. Jae-kyung had been impressed by Minik's strength and wanted to be friends with him. From that moment, they became closer. Seon couldn't believe that Jae-kyung had been bullied. Minik explained that it was because of Jae-kyung's appearance and friendly personality. Good people like him are often seen and treated like cowards. It's an unfortunate truth, Minik said. Seon added, but when people like Jae-kyung get mad, they can be really scary. Seon asked curiously, how does Jae-kyung get when he's mad? The answer was made clear as the guy was slammed into the wall in pain. Jae-kyung ordered him to hand over his phone. The guy, still stunned, questioned, "What the hell do you think you're doing?" But before he could react, Jae-kyung punched him in the face, dislocating his jaw. Jae-kyung got up, took the phone, and commented with disdain, "Pathetic, taking pictures of a defenseless girl." With a stern voice, he asks, "Do you really like living like that?" Suddenly, he is punched in the face with extreme force. The blonde guy, irritated, exclaims, "He came at me out of nowhere and hit me. Does he want to die?" At that moment, Jae-kyung begins to regain consciousness and wonders where she is. She notices Jae-kyung getting punched in the face and wonders what is happening to him. Meanwhile, Jae-kyung contemplates what the guy said, asking if he wants to die. Is this guy really asking him that? The guy tries to punch him again, declaring that he'll finish him off. Unfortunately, there's been a misunderstanding. Jae-kyung should be the one asking if he wants to die, not the other way around. Immediately, Jae-kyung delivers a powerful blow that catches the guy by surprise. He hits him straight in the nose, and blood begins to pour. This is a result of him touching Jae-kyung. Jae-kyung follows with a punch to the kidney, which causes the guy to stagger in pain. Jae-kyung has been doing 100 push-ups every day in one go, and it was a great achievement for him when he finally managed to do it. Minik comments that it feels like when they were in middle school, but now Jae-kyung is in way better shape. Jae-kyung, however, thinks to himself that he has only been training for around 3 months. Minik doesn't know it, but Jae-kyung has received special training, so he shouldn't have to stoop to the level of immature and discouraging people in the first place. Jae-kyung sighs in relief, thinking it's over, but then realizes there's no time to relax. He has to get Jae-kyung free from this place. Suddenly, he's punched in the gut, and the guy sneers, "Did you really think I was done?" Jae-kyung clutches his stomach, staggering. The guy realizes that Jae-kyung must be Jae-kyung's boyfriend. He envies Jae-kyung, the guy who broke his phone. The guy had been planning to add pictures of Jae-kyung to his collection, and because of Jae-kyung's intervention, he's now determined to beat him up, and then do something horrifying that's too terrible to mention. Suddenly, the guy is hid in the jewels by the super gorgeous heroine who has finally arrived. Sung reported the culprits to the police, and the phone they used to take pictures of Jae-kyung was confiscated, so they won't be able to use it anymore. But first, they took Jae-kyung to the ER since she looked awful. The doctor revealed that it was just a common cold and said she just needed to eat well and get some rest to recover. Jae-kyung is relieved that it wasn't anything serious. That's what people get when they try to push themselves while they're sick, he thought. He informed Sung that the doctor said Jae-kyung could go home, so they should call a cab and take her to her place. At Jae-kyung's home, Jae-kyung sits in a chair, staring at her. It had been a close call, but he was happy he found her so soon. When Sung said she was worried, Jae-kyung immediately went looking for Jae-kyung. From the date place to her house. His clothes were dirty, and his head had been hit. His face was all scratched up. He wanted Jae-kyung to see him looking his best on their date, to hear her say, "You look good." He had really been looking forward to it, and now he felt bad about how things had turned out. Sung informed Jae-kyung that she had to go home. She told him to take care of Jae-kyung, and he assured her he would wait until Jae-kyung's parents came home. As Sung left, she came closer to Jae-kyung and warned, "I'm watching you. I know this is a great opportunity to be left alone with her, so if you dare touch her, you won't get away with it. Be careful if you don't want your little friend terminated." With that, she walked away and left. Jae-kyung got up to go to the bathroom, but as he was walking away, Jae-kyung called out to him, telling him not to go. He smiled, sat back down and said, "I'm not going anywhere." She then told him that she had a dream where Sung was saving her from bad people. She wasn't sure if it was a dream or not, but she thought it was really cool. Jae-kyung then told her that it wasn't a dream. He explained that he was worried about her but didn't know she was sick. He asked why she overexerted herself. Jae-kyung revealed that she bought new clothes and spent a lot of time getting ready, thinking about which hairstyle would look better. Now that she thought about it, she wanted to ask him something. Smiling shyly, Jae-kyung asked, "Do I look pretty?" Jae-kyung reflected on why he started working out, why he bought new clothes, and why he got a haircut with Seon. He had been impatiently waiting for their date because he wanted to look good in front of her. Perhaps, just maybe, Jae-kyung felt the same way. So, he told her, "You look beautiful." The next day, Seon asked how the date went. Jae-kyung was surprised and asked how she knew about it. But Seon quickly said she didn't know anything. Jae-kyung explained that she couldn't go on the date because something came up. Seon was surprised but clarified that they still met and that Jae-kyung told her she looked beautiful. Seon was amazed. He actually said that? It seemed incredible, as though they were going out. Jae-kyung revealed that she curled her hair a little differently and had wondered if he would notice. She doubted it at first, but at that very moment Jae-kyung arrived. She rushed over to him, asking, "Did you notice anything different about me?" Jae-kyung, somewhat unsure, responded that he didn't know, but thought her tone had changed a bit. Seon, amused, commented that he was an idiot. Jae-kyung playfully bit him on the shoulder, declaring that she hated him. He teased her, saying, "Don't bite me." It was clear they still had a long way to go. At the dumpster, Jae-kyung and Sung were enjoying themselves as well. Sung asked, "Now that I think about it, did you enjoy your summer break?" Jae-kyung, confused, asked, "Why are you asking so suddenly?" Sung explained that she was just curious. Jae-kyung said her summer break went by quickly, but it was strange that Sung asked out of the blue. She then wondered if Sung wanted to go out and play. Sung stared at her for a few moments before saying, "I'm just asking, nothing more." But then, smiling brightly, she suggested, "Let's go to the beach." She reminded Sung that she had been working as a cashier in a convenience store, so it was time for a break. Sung also revealed that she wanted to try out her new bikini and asked if Jae-kyung wanted to see it. Later at the beach, all the boys were staring at Sung. They loved her style and thought she looked incredible. They admired her figure and wondered if they could get her number. However, she sighed, unimpressed by the attention. She just wondered why Jae-kyung hadn't come out of the bathroom yet. Suddenly, Jae-kyung arrived. Sung was surprised and asked if it was really him, but she mispronounced his name. He corrected her and asked where she knew him from. He finally remembered her as the girl who hugged him out of many. She introduced herself as Shin-sung, a friend of Jae-kyung. Jae-kyung mentioned that he had heard a little about her. Sung, looking closer at him, thought to herself how she knew Jae-kyung liked him, but couldn't understand what she saw in a guy like this. While she was deep in thought, Jae-kyung explained that he was there because his sister dragged him along. Sung took note of his fit physique and admitted that he was kind of cute, and that maybe she had been wrong about him before. She decided to light another cigarette, but Jae-kyung stared at her with an uneasy expression. Sung wondered why he was looking at her like that, but then remembered that she is showing her chest to a guy from school. Her swimsuit didn't seem all that different from underwear. Suddenly, she didn't feel like being there anymore. Jae-kyung interrupted her thoughts, asking, "Do you want some ice cream? It's sweet and tasty." She took it, thanked him, and decided to smoke later. Jae-kyung then asked if it was difficult to stop smoking. Sung explained, "It's just an addiction, so of course, it's hard." She asked why he was curious, and he revealed that he had been thinking about someone. He hoped she would quit smoking someday. Just then, Jae-kyung's sister arrived and demanded to know where the cigarette smell was coming from. She told him to finish his mission and return to the base. He turned to leave and told Sung that there was a designated smoking area near the bathroom. Smoking out here could get her fined, so she should go over there instead. Sung was impressed. He had come over just because his sister smelled someone smoking. He just stumbled upon a schoolmate whom he never said anything to. He gave her an ice cream so she wouldn't grab another cigarette, and he even used the fine as an excuse to make her go to the smokers area. He points out her faults in the least annoying way, and she is impressed and thankful. Moments later, Jae-kyung arrives. Sung questions what's up with the cheap outfit. Sung then reveals that she stumbled upon Jae-kyung a while ago, which startles Jae-kyung. Sung explained that they talked for a bit. Jae-kyung questions what they talked about, but why should Sung tell her? Sung then explains that they're going to the smokers area. She also confesses that now she thinks she knows why Jae-kyung likes Jae-kyung. This surprises Jae-kyung, and she questions what Sung means by that. However, it's a secret at school. Seon walked down the hallway. She noticed Minik and greeted him with "Good morning." Minik hoped that she had a good night's sleep. Walking past her, he said he'd see her later in class. As they walked away, she glanced back at him, wondering why he wouldn't confess to her. Doesn't he think she's pretty just by looking at her? She knows he fell for her. Whatever the case, she concluded that he's been too calm lately, so maybe now is the time to take the next step. Maybe they should start today. Operation Make the Ogre Fall for the Elf. After school, the students were talking about a fancy car that looked extremely expensive. They noticed a guy who looked like a driver, but he seemed scary. The driver greeted Minik and bowed slightly, informing him that he came to pick him up. The students were surprised, thinking Minik was rich. Inside the car, Minik questioned where they were going. The driver exclaimed that they were going to Seon's house and requested that he stay on the couch for the time being. The driver then exclaimed that he'd be leaving. At that moment, Seon arrived and questioned if Minik was surprised. She walked out in a beautiful outfit which took Minik by surprise. Minik questioned if she was crazy, asking what this was all about. She explained that she had gotten many outfits recently, and it was hard to decide when she had so many options. So, Minik was going to help her pick which one was cuter. This was like an elf's charm special. There was no male who wouldn't fall for an elf trying out cute clothes. She crossed her legs, expecting him to fall for her immediately. She questioned how the first outfit looked. Did it look good on her? The unbuttoned shirt and black tie exuded a sense of adult maturity. If he didn't check it out and make a move, then he wasn't a true man, she thought. But he simply told her that it was good. The atmosphere shifted, and she questioned if that was all. What was with the apathetic response? Was she not hot enough for his taste? If that was the case, she came out with her second attack, a cute schoolgirl outfit. She questioned if he had seen anything like this before. She was going to put on some cute clothes, and this time around, it would obviously work. Right now, this skirt was so short that it made her thighs stand out. How could he not fall for this elf? But his response was a bland, "Not bad." He gave her such a cold response that she angrily walked away, declaring the next outfit. Minik questioned why she was angry. However, the next outfit appeared, and after that, many more. First the bunny girl outfit, next the crop top outfit with long hair, and then a Chinese dress. But not long after, she had almost finished her wardrobe and was stunned. She couldn't believe this. She had shown him almost everything, and he questioned what was next. She didn't get the reaction she expected from him. Now she was getting really mad. She even kissed him. She then boldly approached him. Minik, seemingly confused, questioned if she was okay. She grabbed his shoulder and questioned if he wasn't interested in her. He was stunned, seemingly confused by what she was saying. However, he explained that he didn't get why she was doing all this so suddenly, but he wanted to ask something. Who was she meeting with in the clothes she showed him? Did she have a special appointment? She told him no, she didn't have one. He was happy to hear this. She questioned why, and he explained that all the outfits she tried on looked good on her, but he wanted to be the only one to see them. This made her blush, and she thought that this was so evil. She questioned if he really wanted to see them, commenting that he was being a bit greedy. She revealed that she had another outfit. Did he want to see her try it on? She realized that she had lost this time. But he revealed that he wanted to see the schoolgirl outfit she had tried on before. She told him no repeating. In the next scene, we see Jae-kyung sitting on a bench in her old middle school uniform. She wonders where she is and why she is wearing her middle school uniform. Is she a middle schooler again? She then sees her class leader and suddenly remembers how he looked at her with disgust, questioning why she was talking to him. She remembers that he called her disgusting. Later, she remembered how awful the girls were, pouring milk on her head, commenting that she looked so pretty because of it. This pink-haired girl made her life a living nightmare and traumatized her. Jae-kyung's life was ruined. This girl knelt down, commenting that she had to keep her hair that way for the entire day. Suddenly, Jae-kyung woke up from this nightmare, sweating profusely. It was a truly horrible dream. Later, inside her room, she suggested to Sung that they go to the cafe. However, Sung revealed that she was busy. She was taking a bath. Sung then told Jae-kyung to wait for her in the park, and she'd go after finishing her bath, taking a nap, putting on makeup, and eating. Jae-kyung thought she was joking. Maybe she should just call someone else. She began thinking about whether she should call Jae-kyung. She stared at her phone, wondering if she should call him. If she called, would he come? Suddenly, she accidentally called him by mistake and panicked. What should she do? Jae-kyung answered and questioned why she had called. She nervously asked what he was doing, and he explained that he was watching anime with his sister. He inquired why she called, and Jae-kyung pondered what she should do. What excuse could she make up? In a panic, she suggested that they go to the park for a jog so they wouldn't fall behind. Later at the park, Jae-kyung thought it was weird. She called him to exercise, but she was wearing a skirt and a shirt. She thought about it and realized she was overthinking things. But there was nothing she could do now. Jae-kyung commented that she said race for their jog so they wouldn't fall behind. Jae-kyung remembered that she had used this as an excuse to call him. He commented that it was a shame, as he was planning to teach her the correct way to run that Minik had taught him. Upon hearing his name, Jae-kyung questioned if Jae-kyung and Minik were close. He explained that they had known each other since middle school. He then asked if she had anyone she was close to back then. She told him no, she was an outcast in school. This surprised Jae-kyung. An awkward, heavy atmosphere appeared. She quickly realized what she had said and regretted bringing it up. Jae-kyung felt a bit nervous and apologized. But she continued, seemingly unable to stop herself from speaking about her past. She explained everything, starting with the class leader and how she became an outcast. She also mentioned the person who persistently tormented her in middle school. She wasn't sure why she told Jae-kyung about her past, but the words just seemed to flow out. Jae-kyung listened the entire time without saying any comforting words. She remarked that she was okay now and that it was all in the past. She had friends now and had overcome it. Jae-kyung made a dark joke and then informed her he'll go for a run. He told her not to skip cardio, explaining that he was going to run one lap and that afterward, they could go see some fish. This surprised Jae-kyung. Why was he suddenly talking about fish? He reminded her that she had said she liked animals, particularly fish, which made her smile. She was grateful for his attempt to lighten the mood. She thought about getting him water when he finished his lap, so maybe she should go buy him one. Suddenly someone called her name. He questioned if she was Jae-kyung and mentioned it had been a while. It was the ugly class leader, who inquired if she remembered him. She looked at him and immediately made a face of disgust. Do you remember when she told him that she liked him? Back then, when she confessed, the class leader looked at her with so much disgust. Afterward, she found out about the rumors surrounding her. Her table was full of scribbles, and she was insulted by people who stared at her as she passed by. Among them was someone who was the worst of all. She would attack her out of nowhere, acting as if it was funny. Smiling happily, she made her life a nightmare. Her name was Song-yun. Unlike the other kids who weren't directly ruining her life, Yoon kept tearing her down. One day, Yun declared that from now on, Jae-kyung was a dog. Yun declared, how does a dog speak woof? So Jae-kyung barked. Yun laughed, and the boys commented that it was so funny, asking her to do it again. It looked like Jae-kyung had no pride, but still it was amusing to them. The girl declared that Jae-kyung still hadn't realized she was a dog and ordered her to get on all fours immediately. For the first time, Jae-kyung said it was a bit too much, but Yun smiled creepily and questioned, a bit too much what? Jae-kyung explained that she didn't understand why Yun was doing all of this and asked her to stop. Immediately, she was slapped in the face. She was frozen, unable to move as her heart raced and the pain consumed her. She couldn't understand why they were doing this to her. However, the girl looked into her eyes and told her to bark like a dog. She grabbed Jae-kyung by the collar and slapped her repeatedly, declaring, how dare you talk back? Just do what you're told. People still didn't intervene. Someone wondered if they should stop her, but others advised against doing anything unnecessary. They questioned whether they should help, fearing Yun's connections, saying that if they made a mistake, she'd call the upperclassmen from the high school. That's when Jae-kyung learned the truth. Yun had feelings for one of the guys who confessed to her, and Yun wasn't happy about it, so she spread the rumors. That was the only reason Yun bullied her relentlessly. Now, seeing this guy face to face, Jae-kyung was suddenly reminded of the past. She told the class leader it had been a while. He smiled, thinking he had a chance with her now, but she simply told him to buzz off. He didn't seem to understand, so she told him again. The guy tried to act all high and mighty, declaring that she shouldn't be so harsh since he greeted her because he was glad to see her after a while. So why was she acting that way? She wondered if this guy forgot what he said to her. He commented that Jae-kyung knew how to curse now, noting it didn't suit her. She wasn't like this before. It looked like she had changed after becoming a high schooler. He even mentioned how much prettier she had become. Jae-kyung questioned if they were close enough to chit-chat, asking if he had forgotten what he did to her. He explained that he had planned to tell her that Yun was the one who spread the rumors, but he had no choice but to believe them back then. If he hadn't, he would have been bullied too. He questioned if she understood that he was forced and suggested they shouldn't talk about the past anymore. Jae-kyung simply thought that people like him were disgusting. At that moment, Jae-kyung arrived and suggested they go see some fish. Jae-kyung was happy to see him and questioned what took him so long. Jae-kyung asked her to go to the convenience store to buy some apple juice. Jae-kyung questioned if she was his maid, but he explained he'd give her money and pay for her as well. Jae-kyung then noticed the ugly guy. The ugly guy asked if Jae-kyung was her boyfriend, and Jae-kyung quickly responded that it wasn't like that. They then walked away together. The guy looked sad for a moment but immediately became happy, thinking to himself that if Jae-kyung had always been that pretty, he would have accepted her confession. Suddenly, someone tripped him, causing him to fall face first on the ground. Irritated, he looked up to Si-sung, who greeted him. The ugly guy questioned why she tripped him and told her to apologize immediately. She looked down at him with her beautiful dark eyes and apologized sweetly. She helped him up and apologized again. She then questioned if he knew Jae-kyung. He explained that they had met in middle school. Sung revealed that she was one of Jae-kyung's friends and had been listening to their conversation in secret for a while. She also remembered Jae-kyung mentioning something about being bullied, so she wanted to know more about it. He quickly declared that the most important thing was that he didn't do anything. Yun was the one behind it all. Upon hearing Yun's name, Sung realized she had heard it somewhere before. She believed there was a girl with that name in the group she used to hang out with but could barely remember it since she stopped hanging out with them a while ago. Immediately, she made a call to Kwon Il. He questioned why she was calling him, asking if she was bored since they were going to karaoke with everyone else and maybe she should come along. But she got straight to the point, asking if he knew who Yun was. He questioned why, but she told him it wasn't his problem. He, of course, knew her. He had hung out with her multiple times. He then revealed that she was there right now. Sung asked where his location was, and he told her the usual place they hung out. She told him to wait for her there. He then asked if she also wanted to go to karaoke, and she told him yes. Meanwhile, Jae-kyung had explained to Jae-kyung that she thought he was going to take her to the aquarium, but this was just a park with regular water, and it was boring. He apologized, explaining that he didn't have any money, but Jae-kyung declared that she could have given him some. Jae-kyung then told her to look at the ducks, and she commented that it was nice. Jae-kyung revealed that he had seen her friend at the beach the other day. He said her friend gave off the same vibes as her. They both looked like they had bad personalities. Jae-kyung questioned what was wrong with her personality. Jae-kyung asked how she became close to Sung since they were in different classes. Jae-kyung explained that back in middle school, her mind was out of it one day, and Sung had talked to her first. Their friendship was founded over cigarettes, but one thing was for sure. If it weren't for Sung, she would have dropped out of middle school. Jae-kyung was surprised and concluded that Sung must be a good person. Jae-kyung confessed that it wasn't like that since she herself had a bad personality. Meanwhile, Yun asked if she could borrow the blonde-haired guy's phone. He hesitated, but she acted nasty about it, ordering him to give it to her. Suddenly, a strong-looking guy told him to hand it over since she needed it. This guy must have been her boyfriend. He had made a name for himself in fights. As a result, the blonde-haired guy immediately turned over his phone. Yun then questioned when Sung's friend was coming. Suddenly, Sung arrived and questioned if they had called her. She happily greeted them, and the blonde-haired guy introduced everyone. Yun asked why Sung was looking for her, but Sung said she had some questions to ask. She then asked if Yun knew Jae-kyung. Immediately, Yun began talking down about Jae-kyung, revealing that Jae-kyung had been bullied in school for thinking she was unattainable. The guy was surprised that Jae-kyung did that. Sung smiled, but inside, she was shocked. It was hard to believe Jae-kyung had really been bullied. Was Jae-kyung hiding it from her? Was she embarrassed? Why was she so ashamed? Looking at Yun's boyfriend, Sung realized that one hit from him could send someone to another world. As expected, she no longer wanted to continue with this. It was too bothersome. What if she came forward and it didn't work out for her? But if she stayed quiet, it would just be over. Suddenly, Yun declared that Jae-kyung was her cute dog. She still hadn't forgotten how Jae-kyung would kneel before her feet. Yun then questioned if Sung knew where Jae-kyung was. This was very difficult for Sung to hear. They had shot BB guns at Jae-kyung, locked her in warehouses and lockers, and hit her all day, every day. It wasn't any of her business. It didn't matter if it was good or bad. The former class president had left, fearing for his life. If he had touched Yun, he believed he would end up in a grave. If Sung tried to take charge of this, it was possible they would both end up dead. Suddenly, Sung punched Yun in the face, and Yun made an expression that was terrifying. Even her boyfriend was startled. Suddenly, this monster slaps her in the face, and she did not regret what she did. Yun asked her what's wrong with her and what the punch was for, but she says nothing, reflecting on the old days. Somehow, she had become part of the group of bullies, too big and intimidating. Though she was just part of the group, she never felt like she belonged. She thought being in that group would give her a comfortable school life. No one touches you, no one looks down on you, and that was a great feeling. They talked about loyalty and friendship, but she didn't feel any of that. It was simply a necessary relationship. Somehow, she managed to meet Jae-kyung. She was smoking in the alleyway. At first, she thought Jae-kyung was from a group she didn't know and Sung just happened to be without cigarettes. Jae-kyung was moping because she was dumped that day. Why did he dump her? She wondered. Because he didn't like her personality. She was so surprised that she couldn't say anything. After asking for a cigarette, she decided to vent in front of Jae-kyung. not to get close to her, but because she was the only one nearby. At that moment, she was just a girl seeking a cigarette and a place to dump her emotional trauma. She thought they wouldn't meet again anyway, but Jae-kyung would tell her things like, "How could a guy leave such a nice girl like you?" She added that the guy would probably regret it. Maybe Jae-kyung said it to be nice, but those words stuck with her. She thought she was just another girl lost in the world, but something about Jae-kyung's words made her feel better. Somehow, they ended up talking over the phone. Somehow, they ended up going to karaoke. Somehow, she found herself spending more time with Jae-kyung. The group would ask why she hung out with a girl like Jae-kyung, and she'd reply, "She's nice." In fact, she knew from the start Jae-kyung wasn't a popular girl. She was just a funny girl with both feet on the ground. If she kept hanging out with Jae-kyung, there was a good chance she'd get kicked out of the group. But she never stopped. One day, Jae-kyung confessed she was going through a tough time, but she was happy that her new friend was there for her. She questioned what Jae-kyung was talking about. Jae-kyung explained it was her first time going to a cafeteria or karaoke with someone else, and she was happy to hang out with her. Sung thought she was lying, but Jae-kyung was serious. It was her first time hanging out with a friend. Sung teased her, asking if she wanted to go out with her. But Jae-kyung quickly dismissed the idea, saying it wasn't like that. Sung didn't get it because she had so many friends. In reality, Sung didn't have many friends, and truthfully, it was her first time going to karaoke with someone too. Somehow, they spent a whole year together without much reason. They met, played, and laughed. And Sung slowly learned Jae-kyung's secret. It was obvious Jae-kyung had a rough past, but she didn't want to talk about it. Now, the girl who had bullied Jae-kyung was standing right in front of her. Hitting this girl back to avenge Jae-kyung was the worst option. After being excluded from the group, Sung could end up being bullied too. But her hands acted on their own. Yun, bloody and humiliated, stared up at her while two boys looked on. Yun called her a psychopath and warned her to watch where she walked at night. The other members of the group didn't understand why she hit Yun so suddenly. But Sung knew this would happen and didn't regret it. Suddenly, an uneasy feeling washed over Jae-kyung. Jae-kyung questioned what was wrong, and she told him someone was calling her. The person on the other end introduced himself as Jo Kwon Lee. He quickly told her it was important. Her best friend had been beaten up. Sung had hit Yun out of the blue, and things escalated from there. There was no stopping it. It was all because of Yun's boyfriend. Jae-kyung and Jae-kyung ran to Sung's location, and to Jae-kyung's horror, Sung was on the ground, unconscious. Jae-kyung rushed to her side, holding her in her arms and begging her to wake up. She slapped her face gently, telling her to open her eyes. Sung mumbled that it hurt, and Jae-kyung was relieved she was awake. Jae-kyung said they needed to go to the hospital, but Sung refused, calling her crazy for even suggesting it. Sung demanded to know why Jae-kyung kept her secret. She explained that she was afraid Sung would leave her, but more importantly, she asked why Sung hit Yun. Sung simply responded, "Just because." Was she out of her mind? Sung explained that looking at Yun's face just made her want to punch her. Jae-kyung recalled a promise Sung had made long ago. If anyone ever bullied Jae-kyung, Sung would beat them up for her. Furious, Jae-kyung was ready to confront Yun. Meanwhile, Yun's cheek still stung as she grew angrier. Her boyfriend commented on how funny her face looked when she got slapped. Yun declared she'd make Sung her personal punching bag. Suddenly, Jae-kyung appeared and called Yun's name. Yun froze, stunned, but tried to act friendly. She smiled and asked how Jae-kyung was doing, pretending they were old friends. But Jae-kyung was anxious. Seeing Yun brought back bad memories. Yun asked Jae-kyung if she knew Sung. This enraged her, and she demanded to know why. Yun explained that she told Sung Jae-kyung was her cute little puppy, then suddenly Sung hit her. Yun's boyfriend commented on how touching it was. Yun taunted Jae-kyung, recalling the past when she used to bully her. Then, Jae-kyung called her scum, commenting that she was surprised scum like her existed. So Yob slapped Jae-kyung across the face, calling her disgusting. Jae-kyung wondered if she was about to be beaten up again. She had gotten ahead of herself, and now she was in trouble. But suddenly, Jae-kyung stepped in, standing up to all of them alone. Yun was shocked, and her boyfriend was stunned. Jae-kyung asked Jae-kyung what he was doing there. He explained that a guy named Kwon Il had come to take care of Sung, so he came to find Jae-kyung. He even figured out Yun's location and told him. Jae-kyung remarked that Jae-kyung was lucky to have a friend like Sung. He had seen on the internet that if you had a friend who had your back, you were lucky. He had a friend like that too, and now that friend had just arrived. The gladiator, the king of discipline, Minik. Yun seemed surprised, but her boyfriend was stunned. Minik declared that a group of guys beating up one person meant it was time for punishment. He tells them to bring it on, and the bullies are horrified. Now, it's really time for punishment as Minik is angry. After Jae-kyung had left Sung with Kwon Lee, Jae-kyung still had some worries. Jae-kyung went to find those people who beat up Sung. If he went there by himself, would he be of any help? But if he did nothing, then Jae-kyung might end up like Sung too. So he needed to think of a plan to punish them once and for all without retaliation. Who could help him? There was only one who could help, the warrior of punishment and education. So he called Minik. Yoon's commented that it was funny Jae-kyung had brought some friends with her. Yoon realized that she was thoroughly prepared. Yoon asked if Jae-kyung was scared and questioned what difference two idiots would make. Jae-kyung was grateful that they came, but there was one big issue. They were outnumbered compared to Yoon's gang. It was an impossible fight. What if things went south? It was all going to happen because of her again. Jae-kyung told her to leave the rest to him and Minik, and she should just deal with the stupid girl. Jae-kyung asked Jae-kyung if he remembered what she said in the park earlier. If it were her now, she would step on them? Did she still think the same? He walked past Yoon savagely, approaching all the thugs. Yoon was flabbergasted, looking at them as if to say, do they really think they can take all these guys? Jae-kyung was always there for her, and she was grateful. So, she approached Yoon and declared that it was time for them to end this once and for all. Meanwhile, Yoon's boyfriend declared they should get out of the way. He found it interesting, though, and told his gang to sit on the sidelines. His group seemed amused, commenting that he would really take care of them by himself. Suddenly, he punched Minik in the face and declared that he couldn't believe they would come at them like this. He said Minik had guts, and suddenly he punched Minik in the nose, declaring that he looked like an idiot. He asked if they were mad because of what happened to Sung. He declared that he'd beat them up just like he did her. Minik, unbothered, noted that he had a strong punch. He must have been training hard, but he couldn't believe he beat up a girl with those hands. What a useless guy indeed, Minik commented. What you should be doing now isn't provoking or bluffing. What you should be doing is putting your head on the ground. With that, Minik took him down with one swift move. The group, once amused and full of confidence, was now shaking. The guy who had never lost a fight was taken down in one punch. He tried to get up, declaring that he wouldn't lose so easily. Minik saw that he was still holding up. It was a relief. He always thought one punch wouldn't be enough. At that moment, Minik beat him repeatedly. The bullies were scared, but one of them shouted that they should attack. They all rushed Minik together, but he immediately took them down with another swift move. One of them couldn't believe it and ran away to get reinforcement. He hit Jae-kyung in the face when he was trying to escape, feeling bold and strong, but Jae-kyung simply punched him back, questioning why he even bothered to hit him. Immediately, the guy fell unconscious. Minik told him that was a good hit and that Jae-kyung had really gotten strong. Jae-kyung commented that he didn't do much but asked if they were all knocked out. Minik confirmed, saying the only one left was the pink-haired girl, Yoon. Yoon, in disbelief that they had all been taken down, couldn't understand the situation. Suddenly, Jae-kyung told her she didn't have time to look away and slapped her in the face. Yoon was stunned. This was the culprit who had ruined her final school days and was now getting her punishment, being slapped repeatedly and defenseless. Yoon should never have bullied her like she did in middle school. She should have kept quiet in high school like a normal person. She shouldn't have done that to Sung. Everything was hell because of her. She should try going through all that herself. As Jae-kyung saw all of this, she didn't enjoy it. Tears streamed down her face. Yoon commented that it was ridiculous and thought Jae-kyung was going to beat her up. But Jae-won must have been curious. Why did she bully her back then in school? Simply because she didn't want to lose. Suddenly, Jae-won received a punch to the nose. Yoon declared that she got angry every time she saw Jae-won's face. Everyone seemed to like her, so what if she was pretty and smiled a lot? Yet those stupid guys were always confessing to her. It wasn't fair. Why did everyone like her? What made her so special? Just because she was prettier than most people? Since everyone liked her, didn't she think it was okay for one person to hate her? But then Yoon had an ambition. She wanted to make everyone hate Jae-won. That was why she ruined Jae-won's life. This enraged Jae-kyung, but Minsik told him not to interfere. There was no point in them interfering. No matter how it looked, Jae-won was losing the fight. But did he really think so? It did seem like the fight was more in favor of Yoon. Probably because she had watched her boyfriend fight earlier. But Jae-won wasn't giving up. Yoon told her to go die and tried to kick her. But Jae-won countered and pushed her down. Yoon was flabbergasted. She fell to the ground, and when you see your opponent fall, you go on top of them instinctively. Yoon begged her to wait, calling a timeout, but Jae-won punched her in the face. Right hook, left hook, right hook, left hook, until Yoon's face was red. Jae-won continued, punching repeatedly. Yoon weakly said that Jae-won could stop now. She had lost the fight. Her face was purple, and blood dripped from her nose. She asked Jae-won to stop, but Jae-won remembered how she had begged Yoon to stop once too. However, Jae-won closed her eyes and told Yoon that from now on, she should listen to her. There were only two things Jae-won wanted from her. First, stay out of her life starting today. Jae-won never wanted to see her face again. Second, Yoon should never mess with Sung again. Jae-kyung and Minsik watched, seemingly proud of Jae-won. Jae-won asked if Yoon understood. With that, she finally felt truly free and happy. Yoon and her gang were left defeated, bruised, and battered. It was a victorious battle, and the hero had come out on top. Jae-kyung declared that it was over, but Jae-won told him not to say that. Minsik also responded, asking if it was really over, and Jae-won again told him not to say that. She called their names, Jae-kyung and Minsik, and thanked them. She wouldn't have been able to do it without them. They laughed and told her they wanted the newest game console, and Minsik requested chicken breasts. Jae-won promised she would buy it for them. Jae-kyung offered to walk her home, but Jae-won told him it was fine. She still had Sung to think about, and she smiled happily knowing she had somewhere to go. Later, Jae-won walked alone when a blonde guy approached, saying he had been waiting for her. She asked why, and he reminded her that they had talked on the phone earlier. He explained Sung's location, saying she was asleep inside. Jae-won thanked him and explained that she heard about how he took Sung to the hospital. She promised to pay him back, but with Sung's money, of course. He laughed and remarked that when he first saw her at school, he thought she was rude, but it turns out she wasn't that bad after all. Inside the office, Sung was in a deep sleep. Jae-won remembered the time when Sung had asked her if she had gotten into a fight, as her face looked like it. Jae-won explained that she had tried to pet a cat, but it scratched her. Sung found it hilarious and laughed. At that moment, Jae-won remembered her promise to Sung, that if anyone bullied her, Jae-won would beat them all up for her. Jae-won smiled, knowing she had kept that promise. 2 days later, Jae-kyung explained everything that had happened, and Jae-kyung couldn't believe it. Jae-kyung commented that Jae-won should have called her, as she could have helped. Jae-kyung asked why she was acting like that and said she was making him worried. Jae-kyung was a bit happy that he was worried. He bumped into Jae-won and asked if she was okay. He commented that she looked like she was in a bad mood and asked if something had happened. Jae-won explained that Sung didn't come to school today either. She went to her class, but they said she was absent. Jae-won really hoped nothing bad had happened to her, but Jae-kyung reassured her. Sung isn't picking up Jae-won calls, and she's worried about Sung whereabouts. Jae-kyung noticed she looked frustrated, and she must have been very worried about Sung. What should he do to make her feel better? Should he take her to see the fish again? No, that would only ruin her mood further. There had to be something else he could do. Suddenly, Sung arrived and questioned, "Are they having a date at school now?" She commented that it seemed like she had missed a lot. Immediately, Jae-kyung rushed into her arms, hugging her. Kyung realized that there was nothing he could do from the beginning. Jae-kyung had also promised that if anyone ever bullied her, she wouldn't stay still. She would beat their asses. Later that night, at Jae-kyung's favorite spot on a rooftop, Jae-kyung reflected on how he had always saved the damsel in distress. Nothing had changed in all that time. Maybe she shouldn't get her hopes up. The weather had grown colder. The long summer had come to an end, and the spring uniforms were now winter ones. At that moment, Kyung saw his sister, Saluji, talking to someone discussing going to the cyber cafe after school. Kyung called out to his little sister, Saluji, "Why did you come to school earlier than me?" She then responded, only demanding pizza. He responded, "Since when did I promise pizza?" She told him not to talk to her if he wasn't going to get her pizza. Just then, a guy bowed 90 degrees and introduced himself as Park Dong-cheol. He declared that he would be happy if Kyung became his brother. Kyung told him to take it up with their father. Kyung remembered him as the guy his sister had played games with the other day. Saluji questioned whether he really wanted to be his brother, and Kyung commented that she seemed serious. She assured him that he didn't need to worry, as Dong-cheol was her only friend. Kyung realized she was quite dense sometimes. Both Saluji and Dong-cheol were very active, making him wonder if they were ever going to be together someday. Even so, Kyung learned something from them. He needed to learn how to treat Jae-kyung better. Felt strange, though. Now didn't seem like the right time to do anything. He had decided to confess in a cool way from the beginning, but he hadn't made any progress. Relationships were really hard. Suddenly, he bumped into Seon, who greeted him with "Good morning." She explained that she was imitating Jae-kyung and asked if it looked the same. Kyung replied that it was close enough. When she saw him, she could tell that he hadn't made any progress with Jae-kyung just by looking at his face, so she decided to mess with him a little bit. Regardless of that, she wanted him to come to her house after school. She explained that women are sensitive to changes. Tomorrow, there would be an official event at her house. If he came, she would invite Jae-kyung and help set the mood for them. Kyung questioned whether he could trust her with that, and she assured him that her plans were always perfect. "Who knows?" she added. "Maybe you'll even get a premarital baby out of it." She insisted that he must come to her place after school. He was a little nervous, but she already had something devious planned. At Seon's house, Jae-kyung commented that it had been a while since they had been there. The house was just as massive as they remembered. Kyung still couldn't believe she was in their class. Suddenly, Seon's friends greeted them and commented on how they had arrived together, seeming closer than usual. The girls started teasing Kyung, noting how they hadn't seen him often, but how he had become more muscular and taller. They even asked if he had a six-pack and urged him to show it. They told him to take his sweater off, but Kyung told them to back off, feeling it was an inconvenience. The girls questioned if Jae-kyung was jealous, calling it cute. They also remarked that Jae-kyung's chest was enormous, expressing a desire to touch it. Seon's friends were really fast-moving. That's when Jae-kyung and her friend arrived. Jae-kyung commented that she had something to do but had been called to come over. Sung loved it, saying she had never visited a house this big before. Kyung was surprised they also came and wondered what Seon wanted with all of them. Jae-kyung was particularly surprised that Kyung had been invited. Sung explained that she had just felt like tagging along. Suddenly, Jae-kyung locked eyes with Sung, as if they were communicating without words. She tried to say something, but Seon declared that everyone had arrived. Seon thanked everyone for coming and announced that she would be hosting an event called Cops and Robbers. Kyung questioned whether she was talking about tag, while Jae-kyung asked if she had really called them for this, wanting to go home. Nobody wanted to run, and they suggested playing something else. Seon then mentioned that the winner would receive 2 million won. Suddenly, everyone wanted to play. Seon explained the rules. The cops' job was to capture the robbers, and the time limit was 1 hour. The cops would win if they captured all the robbers. If even one robber remained uncaptured by the end, the robbers would win. But Seon added one special rule. It was called BSM. If the police captured a robber, they had to handcuff them and take them to prison. Seon's idea was to spice things up a bit. The teams were made, and Kir-young realized he was the only cop, with all the girls playing as robbers. Kir-young thought this was too much. Being the only cop among all the girls felt like the perfect crime. What did this have to do with setting a good mood, though? Seon ordered everyone to start running. Seon's friends whispered to each other that they would let Kir-young catch them, as they didn't want anything to happen to them. Even Jae-won was running very slowly. Kir-young questioned what this had to do with setting the mood Seon had mentioned earlier. Seon told him he didn't understand. It was an opportunity to be legally close to Jae-kyung. When he arrested her, their bodies and hearts would be captured. They would become hot and flustered, and a desire-filled accident might happen. Anyway, that's how it works, she said, and told him to start running after her. Before she left, she handed him a backpack filled with handcuffs. He had to tie the robbers up, and he had to leave in 2 minutes. Later, Kir-young imagined Jae-kyung all tied up in handcuffs and decided it was time to release his inner energy. Meanwhile, Jae-won thought her plan was smart. If they hid in the women's bathroom, Kir-young would never find them. However, Sung didn't think it was a good idea. She commented that there was no way Kir-young would go into the women's bathroom, but she was determined to win the 2 million won. Kir-young, planning to use the bathroom, immediately found them. He declared that he had caught a robber. Sung tried to cover her mouth and blushed as Kir-young told her to behave and not get too close. She said it hurt, but he reassured her, saying he would be gentle. He handcuffed her and told her that she was a criminal who needed to be taken to jail. Sung remarked that there was no distinction between men and women in a house bathroom. Jae-won fell on the ground. She asked why he had thrown her, and he responded that she had lost her balance. Sung warned him that if he did something stupid, he'd pay the price, but Kir-young told her not to worry. As he left her there, he thought about making the second-floor bedroom the prison. A blonde-haired girl waved Kir-young over, and he rushed toward her, eager to capture her. But when he entered the room, he found no one. It was a trick for the girl to infiltrate the prison and freed their fellow criminal who had been captured. However, before she knew it, Kir-young arrived and declared that she was the one who had been tricked. He reminded her that she forgot about his physical abilities and reflexes. When she was handcuffed, she declared that it was too much, and he told her to be quiet. Now, Kir-young said he had to go catch the other robbers, which caught the girls off guard. Were they not attractive enough for him? Kir-young realized there were 4 girls remaining and still enough time. Among them, one had especially good physical abilities. She wouldn't be easy to catch. But he remembered Seon's words, who had declared that whoever he arrested would have their body and mind captured. He had already learned how to do that thanks to Minsik's special training. Meanwhile, Minsik's father questioned what was wrong because he stopped counting. Minik informed his father that he had just felt a strange sensation. Meanwhile, Sung looked at the view from the balcony, thinking that the night view was insane. She was surprised when Jae-kyung suddenly arrived and asked if she had the key to the handcuffs, as she was planning to save the others. Sung stared at her with hate in her eyes. She pointed to her jacket and revealed that the key was in there. Sung remembered everything that happened when she was completely beaten by Jae-kyung and apologized for what happened last time. She admitted they were making fun of Kir-young and that she had lost her temper, thinking the she was someone at the time. But Jae-kyung told her it was okay, that it had happened a long time ago, and even she believed she had overreacted because Kir-young was involved. As expected, Sung already knew Jae-kyung had a crush on Kir-young. He was a rather magical guy. Sung tried to interrogate Jae-kyung, but she deflected, suggesting they go save the others who had been caught. Sung wondered what would happen if they got caught while trying to save the others. Jae-kyung declared she would protect her, so they wouldn't be caught. Immediately, Kir-young declared, "Robber spotted," and captured 2 of them. Jae-kyung was really upset and immediately ran off, leaving Sung all alone. Kir-young commented that this robber seemed cornered, but Sung was mad. Jae-kyung had promised to protect her. Kir-young told Sung to put her hands up, with a rope in hand. Sung couldn't handle how he tied her up, wishing he would do it in a normal way. Seon's friend commented that Kir-young was pretty maniacal. Despite his appearance, he might be a huge perv. Unlike handcuffs, a rope can't be untied with a key. So Sung's hands were bound and she couldn't escape. But why was she the only one tied with a rope? She also told Jae-kyung not to come any closer. Jae-kyung explained that there were only 2 robbers left, but Sung wasn't listening. She found the pose embarrassing. Jae-kyung then wondered where Seon could be hiding. Since there were only 2 left, he could just bring the handcuffs with him. He realized there wasn't much time left, so he needed to catch them quickly. But there was no need to panic yet. He sensed someone's presence in the room, and that someone was probably Jae-kyung, who had come to save the other robbers. He wondered if he would be able to catch her, but he decided to think about it later. Today he would arrest Jae-kyung. Suddenly, her inner demon appeared and kicked him to the ground, causing him to lose the handcuffs. He was shocked as she took this chance to sit on him, declaring she knew he would come. She noticed he had brought handcuffs and asked if he enjoyed tying up the girls. But now it was his turn. Jae-kyung was surprised. What should he do? What was going to happen to him? Jae-kyung commented that he was such a bad cop for tying up the girls and leaving them unattended in embarrassing positions. He needed to be punished for being a bad boy. He tried to explain that it was just part of the game, but she told him to shut up. She only planned to catch him, but now she couldn't let this slide. Jae-kyung asked what she meant by that, but Jae-kyung brushed it off, telling him to forget it. Anyway, she was going to punish him for being a perv cop and told him to hold out his hands. Jae-kyung lamented that he ended up losing like this. It was a shame. Jae-kyung asked if it was because of the 2 million won, but Jae-kyung explained that no, it was her. She was the one he wanted to capture from the beginning. It was a shame he hadn't gotten the chance. He realized that Jae-kyung's grip on him had loosened a bit. If he played his cards right, he could break free. He grabbed her shoulder and pushed her down. He then took the handcuffs and declared that she had lost. Jae-kyung stayed there in a defensive position, looking at him. Jae-kyung declared that he now had the handcuffs and was going to put them on her. He wondered if he was being too harsh, but he had no choice. He slowly placed the cuffs on her and questioned if she was really letting him capture her like this. He thought she would run away. Jae-kyung asked, "Didn't you say you wanted to do it with me? Capture me?" Jae-kyung stammered and declared yes, he had said that. So he cuffed her and told her they were going to prison. Jae-kyung complained that it was hard for her to get up since her hands were tied. So Jae-kyung helped her up. This made her hot and bothered, and she was loving every minute of it. Later, Seon declared that because a member of Team Robber managed to remain uncaptured, the team won the game. When asked what she would do with the 2 million won, she explained that she would divide it and send it to their bank accounts. Jae-won and Sung both declared they never wanted to play this game again. Neither did Sung. Seon then noticed Jae-kyung and Jae-kyung. She whispered in his ear, asking how many times he felt the urge, and if he had captured Jae-kyung's heart. Jae-kyung explained that he wasn't sure if he had captured her heart, but it wasn't a bad experience. Seon announced that Jae-kyung had become a perv, and he told her to shut up. The other girls commented that it was unfair. Since Seon wasn't caught by Jae-kyung, she avoided embarrassment. Also, since it was Seon's house, she had an advantage from the start. Seon replied, "If you win, you win." However, Sung believed that Seon should be tied up once too, and they wanted her to be in the most embarrassing position. Jae-kyung commented that Seon was doomed. Jae-kyung held her as ordered, making sure she wouldn't run. Her friends declared they would do it gently. It would be painful if she fought back. Seon declared that everyone was wronging her. They suggested other things they could do with her, and though she protested, deep down she loved it. However, no matter how they looked at it, it was obvious that she was enjoying it.